Welcome to our podcast. My name is Sarah O'Leary. I'm founder of The Workplace Mindset. We're kicking off a whole series dedicated to exploring leadership, culture, coaching, mentoring, and growth, both for individuals and organizations. Today's topic is breaking ice, women leading change inspired by Antarctica's challenges. And we are chatting with Annette Gray. Annette is an experienced global leadership coach, facilitator, and speaker on solution-focused coaching and mentoring. Her vision is to create a more respectful, inclusive, and sustainable world by helping leaders grow others, particularly women, so we can all thrive and drive change. Her passion is in developing leaders and mentors to be more coach-like in all their conversations that will help their team shine and achieve change fast. This is what she believes leadership for the future is all about. Annette has trained over 8,000 people in coaching and mentoring and conducted over 2,800 hours of leadership coaching. She loves to keep fit by ocean swimming and is a mentor to people who are learning to ocean swim through her volunteer work with the Can2 Foundation. She also volunteers as a leadership coach for Homeward Bound, a Women in STEMM Leadership Initiative to help women have a voice around climate change globally. She was lucky enough to go to Antarctica in November 2023 with this program. So, hello Annette, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
So, you recently embarked on a trip to Antarctica. Wow. Could you share a little on why and who you went with?
Sure. I went with the Homeward Bound projects, and Homeward Bound have been around for 8 years, and I've been a leadership coach as part of that program. And it's a Women in STEM Leadership Initiative. And basically each year, 100 women apply to join the cohort each year. And it's a year-long program where they learn about leadership, visibility, well-being, and climate change. And the main charter is actually helping women have more of a voice around the world around climate change. So yes, I was lucky enough to go to Antarctica last year in November because they had some free spots on the ship. And they actually put it out to others, coaches and others, to whether they would like to go. And I got to go, which was the most exciting thing because Antarctica has been on my bucket list for a long time. And to do it in this way was just so incredibly exciting.
Must have been absolutely amazing. So what were your best hopes going into the trip?
Well, two things. I wanted to see Antarctica. So I wanted to see what it actually looked like and experience being down there. So that was one side of it. The other was hanging out with 88 incredible women from around the world who are in the top of their fields. Half of them had PhDs and a lot of them were doing just fascinating jobs. We had an astronaut. We had the first commercial female pilot from France on there. We had people who were working for United Nations and influencing policy in different countries. We had government people who were working on policy. So we had so many scientists, people who are engineers, people who are in medical backgrounds. So it's just so good being able to hang out with incredible women. And I love the quote, we're only as good as the people we surround ourselves with. And I got to hang out with the cream.
So you had your hopes and your ideas of what the trip was going to be like. What did you actually gain?
Well, what did I didn't realize I would gain was 88 friendships and 88 incredible connections from these women around the world, because prior to the ship, we had a WhatsApp group, and a lot of the chat on the WhatsApp group, and everyone's on it, including the faculty who led the program. What we did is a lot of it was around what to take. It was all very basic level stuff, or what to expect and everything. But afterwards, I didn't realize it's a network I can tap into for information, latest research, being cheerleaders for each other, just incredible support network. And I was not anticipating that. And that has been life-giving for me because it's like I'm at the later stages of my career, and to have this input of incredible women from all stages of their career. So the youngest was 25 and the oldest was 76. So it was great, that multi-generational conversation as well. But the other thing I've realized is, and what some of the work I do and my mission now is, I want to get more women into leadership, because what's going on around the world, around who are our role models at the moment, it's not cutting it. It's not cutting it for the complex change that we have to make on a whole range of levels, for humanity, for the world, for our biodiversity, for how we eat, for a whole range of things. There's complex issues. So we've got to do leadership differently. I think that's what I've really come away with.
Right. You did put a post up on LinkedIn yesterday, I think, about a quote, someone called Angela. Do you want to mention that at all?
Sure. So that's another benefit of this support network. Is this one of the people I went to Antarctica with, let's call her Angela, reached out to the group last Tuesday night saying, "Hey, sisters," we call ourselves HB sisters. Hey, which is Homeward Bound sisters. "Hey, sisters, this is what happened to me today." And she was in her hotel room crying because she was giving a presentation on her PhD and her research. And some fellow in the audience decided he was going to correct her and he was going to give her feedback in not the most constructive way in front of everyone she was presenting. And she was devastated. She said, "I've never been so humiliated in all my life." And she said she's just been crying for hours in her hotel room on her own. And what I observed there, after she put that up, all these amazing comments of support in all different ways. Some were, "Hey, these are the qualities that we see in you. He's probably intimidated by you," was one strain. Another was, "Here's what you could have said if this happens again in future." And then there was just incredible support of what kind of human being she is. And it was interesting because that went for 24 hours, those beautiful comments that were coming through, because everyone was waking up around the world seeing them. And so we were her cheerleaders. And so she needed to go to day 2 of the conference. And by hearing all those wonderful supportive comments and some tips and tricks of what to do, what she could do in future, or say to this guy if she gets the opportunity, she was able to pull herself back up and have the courage to go back out, because she had all these cheerleaders, 88 cheerleaders behind her.
Right.
What the moral of that after story is that she sent a message back to us the following night saying, "Hey, you wouldn't believe, the conference dinner happened. I went along to that thinking, I really don't want to be here. I'm still feeling a bit raw." She was invited in onto the table of where all the formal dignitaries were, all the top people at that conference. She was invited to sit at their table. And then she was also invited onto a board. So in spite of that comment that guy made, she was getting accolades for what kind of person and the quality of her work. So it was a nice sort of rub in the nose of that guy. But that was what I think this network does. And that's what I think we all need. We all need that support network that we can go to when we're feeling a bit wounded and we've got to pull ourselves up to go back out. And unfortunately, women are often impacted by that sort of scenario. Not sure if that guy would be as tough saying that if it was a male speaker. But I don't want this to be male, female bashing. It's more about, I think we all need to be able to tap into a network that supports us when we need it. And whether that's having an individual mentor, coach, support network, whatever it is, it needs something for all of us to actually keep going.
Yes, that was very nice to read that yesterday. So what is next for you?
Well, I've spent a couple of months, because I came back end of November. I've spent a couple of months going, what is that? Because of that experience, because seeing Antarctica and how pristine it is, but also seeing how it's being taken care of, because I didn't know before I went, there's an Antarctica Treaty, which is all countries, there's a number of countries that actually contributed to this treaty and are part of this. I can't even remember the terms. It's an acronym, ARTO or something, who are there to look after Antarctica. So they are the ones that are representative to take stock of what happens with cruise ships and set up some guidelines, because no one owns Antarctica. It's the only country in the world that no country owns it. So it's the only true collaboration that happens. And seeing that model of, well, if we can do it for Antarctica, and the Charter for Antarctica is for peace and science, why can't we do it on other other topics, other things like climate change, whole range? Which it has been. There was the Paris Agreement, there was a sustainability goals that were set up by the United Nations. And I'm really quite passionate about 3 of the 17 sustainability development goals. And one is around gender equality, one's around wellbeing for all, health and wellbeing for all, and the third is about climate action. And that's what's been lit a fire in my belly going to Antarctica, because we don't want that to melt. And it is melting. And we don't want it to melt any faster, because it's going to change the biodiversity down there and all the animals that live down there. But it also changes our weather pattern. So for me going forward, my lens is around how do we actually change the way leadership happens? And it's starting to be the focus when I'm reading in terms of these inner development goals that now support the sustainability development goals, is they're saying it's all about the inner game of leadership. So how do we raise the consciousness of leaders all around the world to be noticing, they're being aware, knowing how to collaborate in a respectful way, but they've got to do the inner work before they're going to be able to do that. And so that's my mission going forward, is how does I support the change in the way leadership happens going forward?
Well, that was my next question. So, yeah, how do you think you can influence that change?
Well, I've distilled it down, Sarah, to 3 areas. And one is around having experienced that support network. I think we all need a mentor. And I think leaders can actually play a mentor role and a coach role. And so I have a program that people can do on their own, and it's self-paced and it gives them basic skills of mentoring. But then I have another 2 where that's do it yourself. Whereas I have another program which is more I facilitate it, and it's a solution-focused leader as coach. And I say solution-focused leader as coach because there's a way we can have conversations that helps change happen fast. And I provide the tools for leaders how to have these sorts of conversations that are coach-like. Not doing what I do. I'm a professional coach. Not that at all. But what are the skills of coaching leaders can pick up and actually work with their own people to grow and develop them and help them take responsibility for and accountability for the work? Because one of the number one things I hear leaders say is, my team won't do take accountability and so forth. And it's often because they're creating dependency on them. And so finding a way that they can have this, what we call an adult relationship with their people, it comes through how they have conversations. And if you distill it to the basic unit, it's asking, not telling. And then the third focus that I've become clear over the last couple of months is around doing a deeper dive with really progressive leaders who really want to make an impact. And I'm calling it a leadership mastermind. And I will gather 10 leaders from different organizations who either work on their leadership and focused on how to be more collaborative and more constructive in how they lead. Because many of us have no good role models of how to do this well, particularly in this new world. And then the other aspect is the well-being. People want work-life balance. People want to be able to flourish inside of work and outside of work. But again, we don't have good role models for that. So in both scenarios, there's a self-awareness tool that's used to give a benchmark of where leaders are starting from. And then the mastermind is group coaching. So I will work with those 10 individuals as a group. I facilitate that, but then also they're supporting each other and practicing their coaching skills in those conversations as well. And implementing a change they want over that 6 period that they can go back into work at any. But they've got an on-call support network of those other 10 leaders that they're going through that process as well. So that's where it's landed, given all that. Not sure how I can impact in a bigger way, but I think this will help.
Yeah,
That answered your question.
yes, it would be so very interesting to see what the outcome of that third option is with those leaders and see how they personally developed over time. That'd be a really interesting scenario to see or hear about. So can you tell people how they can get in touch with you?
Sure. There's a number of ways. So it can be just direct email to me, which is Annette@AnnetteGray.com, or find me on LinkedIn, which is Annette Gray Consulting. Or lastly, go to my website, which is .com.au. So pretty easy, one of those three.
Yeah. Well, I will put all that information in the description as well. And also I'll put a link to the 17 goals for sustainable development that I don't know, I'd never heard of, but
I hadn't either before I got involved with this program. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Annette. I'm really proud to have you on as our first presenter.
Very, very kind. And so delighted you chose me to be your first guest.
That was obvious choice. All right. Thank you, Annette.
Thank you, Sarah.